Today on the Playbook Podcast, it is done. Donald Trump has signed the Epstein files bill. Now, can he get back to talking about the economy? We shall see. We've got the latest on the Ukraine peace plan and the backlash that's building to that. And a big funeral happening in Washington, D.C. this morning. We'll tell you who's going to be there. Hello, I'm Jack Blanchard.
And I'm Dasha Burns. It is Thursday, November 20th.
And this is the Playbook Podcast. Dasha, we are crawling towards the end of the week. Are you excited?
Truly crawling. Yeah, I'm thrilled.
You are thrilled. Absolutely. Well, it feels like one small saga got put to bed finally last night in a way. Well, probably not. Probably not. But he's done it. He's done it. It was announced where else on Truth Social yesterday evening that Donald Trump has signed the Epstein files bill that he never wanted to see on his desk. It arrived there yesterday. He signed it last night. Normally when he signs a piece of legislation, Dasha, there's a big ceremony in the Oval Office. He gets people in, he gets the cameras in, he gets all the supporters to cheer when he signs it. We didn't actually see that.
There was no party.
There was no party because, of course, this bill is a sign of Donald Trump's weakness because he has been forced upon him by Congress in a way, and I guess public opinion in a way that we have simply not seen before this year. Lots of people have been asking me, when are the files coming out? Like, are we going to see the files tonight? No. We are not going to get like some big folder arrive in the next hour or so that's like, here is the Epstein files.
No, and Pam Bondi had a presser yesterday that was really murky in terms of, what she was committing to releasing, saying that there's some new information that might complicate things. So, the process for these files actually being released to the public and what is going to be released and how people are going to receive it. I mean, this is why I when you said put to bed, I laughed because I think we are quite far from any real resolution here, but a big step in the signing of this bill.
Yeah, you're right. The White House would certainly like it to be put to bed. The legislation says they have 30 days to publish, to put out what they have. So and as you say, there are many ways that bits of information may not ever come out. Some of it is judges have said must never come out, and then other bits again where if the DOJ says there's an active investigation and that this information might prejudice that case, they're allowed to withhold it as well. And so there's quite a lot of leeway there. But you've got reporting, Dasha, on how they're feeling about. We talked about this a bit yesterday morning, but like when I say they just want to put this behind them, there are people in the White House who want to use this as a tool to clobber their opponents over the head with, right?
Oh yeah, and not just opponents on the other side of the aisle, but like opponents in their own party. I mean, we talked yesterday about the target turning toward Democrats now, and then using any Democratic name that is associated with these files to go hard after the other side. But they're not so thrilled with certain Republicans either. I asked a White House official, like, why did the president approach it the way that he did for months, even though it was clearly damaging, and a lot of their allies thought it was damaging for him. And this person told me that he just didn't want to concede to Thomas Massie and to the Democrats, and had some kind of harsh words saying, some Republicans made some choices, saying they can count 4 Republicans. Well, 3 plus Thomas Massie, because he apparently in the White House is no longer considered to be a Republican. But they made choices on an issue that they have done nothing on, quote, for 4 years. Are we allowed to say that on this podcast?
We've said it now. Come on, carry on.
Sorry, any children that are.
It's not you, Dasha. It's the White House.
It's the White House. And there's more. Plug your children's ears, because this person said, as it pertains to the files themselves, we don't give a shit. But there are 4 Republicans that chose, including Massie, to caucus with Democrats to run a political attack, a distraction they didn't care about until very recently. And that's fine. We'll remember that. End quote.
The actual news event that's happening today, as I say, is unlikely to be some big Epstein files dump of documents. The actual news event that's happening this morning is on the economy, which is the thing that the White House wants Donald Trump to be talking about anyway. But he may not want to talk massively about this. We are getting the delayed jobs report for September. And this is quite a big deal, Dasha, because this is the one that got shelved because of the government shutdown, or one of two that got shelved because of the government shutdown. So we're going to get a sort of rear view mirror glimpse today of how the economy was doing then. It's out of date, but nevertheless, when we've been flying completely blind for the last couple of months, it's going to at least give us a bit of an indication. And there aren't many economists out there who think it's going to be great news. The jobs market is not doing great in America under Donald Trump at the moment, and no one really thinks this is going to change that picture. I think it's just going to add to a sense that, this is an area where Trump, things aren't going as well as he wanted them to be doing. Whatever he says, and he says it every day, obviously the stock market is doing fantastic and so on, but other aspects of the economy are not, and people aren't feeling it. And we're seeing poll after poll that shows that people aren't feeling it. And that is it proving to be an increasingly big problem for the president. And, even though the White House wants him to talk about this stuff, it doesn't seem to yet have a good pat answer down that's going to turn people's opinions around beyond just telling them, no, everything's great, the Democrats are lying to you.
And the White House is aware of this. And, who else is really aware of it? Any Republican that is planning to run in the midterms in 2026. Right. I mean, this is going to be the central issue. They know that the messaging needs to be better on it, but in order for the messaging to be better, the lived reality has to be better. And so there are a number of things. There's a lot of finger crossing right now that the work that they are doing presently pays off next year. There are people in the White House that believe that tariffs are not a bad thing. They're a good thing, that they will pay off. There are others that are very skeptical of that, of course. And then there's this big Supreme Court case that could screw the whole thing up, which would really throw a curveball for both the elections and for this president.
Well, it would, because it seems his big policy idea to fix this is to give people $2,000 checks next year, just before the midterm.
Tariff dividends, right?
The tariff dividends, the great political theory that if you give people money just before they vote, they're more likely to vote for you. I mean, politicians have been doing that in different ways for as long as voting has existed, and it can work. I'm not saying it's a terrible idea in terms of the blunt politics of it, but you need the Supreme Court not to strike down your tariffs for that presumably to be possible, and that looks like it could be a problem. Did you see the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent being asked about this on TV earlier this week? And it was put to him, these $2,000 checks, Mr. Secretary, won't they be really inflationary? And he said, oh, well, maybe we can ask people not to spend them, or words to that effect. Now, that is definitely not the line. Like, if that's what he really thinks, then that's someone who doesn't really think that this policy is a good idea. Because the idea that you go out giving every American a $2,000 check and say, oh, please put it in the bank, we don't actually want you to spend it, seems a little far-fetched.
Or invest it in the stock market, even if you've never invested in the stock market before.
Sure, why not? I mean, that is not how certainly the people I know tend to operate if you give them a $2,000 check. I mean, maybe some people will, but, it doesn't feel like a very coherent plan that all of the administration is on board with, is what I'm trying to say, let alone Congress.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And the Congress piece of it actually is a really big deal. I mean, some of this economic stuff that this White House wants to do will be, it'll be really important to have Congress on board if they want to do it, sustainably and in a way that has any sort of longevity. And there are a lot of fiscal conservatives on the Hill still that aren't thrilled by the idea of just giving people a bunch of money.
In terms of the impact that the economic picture is having on the way people view the finances, the nation, absolutely bleak numbers for Trump in the latest Fox News poll. And of course, this is a poll that he cannot avoid. Listen to some of the takeaways from the latest Fox News national survey they put out last night. 76% of voters view the economy negatively. It's worse than the 67% who felt that way in July, and worse than the 70% who said the same at the end of former President Biden's term. So that number has got worse under Trump 2.0, according to Fox News, his favorite TV channel. And the next one from Fox: voters blame the president, full stop. About twice as many people say President Donald Trump rather than Biden is responsible for the current economy. And 3 times as many say Trump's economic policies have hurt them. These are awful things for a president to be reading when he knows that this is how he's going to be judged, and the Republican Party is going to be judged at the ballot box next year.
Yeah, he is not going to be happy to see this. And the question is, what impact does this response from the public have on how he talks about it and what he does about it?
When he was talking about it yesterday, he was making the speech at the Saudi Investment Forum at the Kennedy Center. When he talks about this affordability stuff, Dasha, he doesn't seem to really feel it. Like he said, he gets agitated, and he's like, "That's the new word that they're using, affordability." He's not empathizing. He's not saying, "Look, I know my supporters are finding it hard. We're going to turn it around. Here's a plan." He sort of seems to resent the fact that he's being asked to talk about it. And he thinks the whole thing is a big hoax. At least that's how it comes across when I watch him speaking.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's we've talked about this before, but it's a similar problem that Biden had, and I do think this is kind of a pattern for presidents, though they are mad at their predecessors for leaving them with an economic situation that is not what they would have wanted, and they feel when they feel that they are making that economic situation slightly better than their predecessors, they want all of the credit for that, and oftentimes they don't get the credit for that, and then they're really upset about it.
Someone who's very comfortable and enjoys talking about affordability is, of course, Zohran Mamdani, the mayor-elect of New York City. And
excellent transition, Jack.
Thank you. That's what they pay me for. If you missed this last night, Mamdani is coming to the White House tomorrow. It's going to be a sit-down in the Oval Office with President Trump, and it is going to be box office. This, to me, feels like the biggest one of these since Zelensky was there in February, and it all went off. Surely there's no way these two guys are going to get on. What do you think, Dasha?
I mean, it's like people from two totally different Marvel universes.
Right.
I don't know if things are going to implode, like if we're going to see the
Alien versus Predator.
Totally.
The thing is, since the Zelensky meltdown, we've obviously seen lots of foreign leaders come over to the Oval Office and sit on that sofa and have that conversation. And they've all figured out a way to do it. And those meetings almost always go well because they're very nice to Donald Trump. They bring him a nice gift. They say things he wants to hear, and they have a sort of patter that pretty much always works with the president. And so this is the new diplomacy with America. It's very hard to imagine Zohran Mamdani taking that approach. Like, this guy does not believe in any of that. The people he's trying to appeal to don't even want to see that.
I just don't know. Like, anything could happen. This is why I'm like getting my popcorn ready, because I truly cannot conceive of like how this is going to go.
Let's talk about Ukraine. We obviously spent a lot of time talking about that yesterday morning, and through the course of the day, after you helped break that story, Dasha, the details of this peace plan concocted by members of the Trump administration and Moscow emerged, looking pretty much Ukraine's worst nightmare in terms of the detail of it. We're seeing a lot of pushback now. There was pushback coming out of Europe yesterday and last night, really, as you would expect. More interesting to me was that I also thought we saw pushback from Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, which suggests to me that the Trump administration is not a unified sort of being on this idea, and that there is still quite a lot of internal conversations going on about how this should be approached.
It's really difficult to try to like read deeply into these public posts. I mean, Rubio certainly didn't give like a ringing endorsement of the situation at hand, and we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. We do know that Secretary of the Army Dan Driscoll is in Ukraine, actively talking to the Ukrainians right now, to be a fly on the wall in that room and hear what he's got incoming now that all of this reporting is out, because it's not Witkoff that's there right now. It's Driscoll. So you've got different officials, having these interfaces with the stakeholders here, trying to move the ball forward while all of this news is breaking. And so you've got the real conversations, and then you have like the global conversation swirling around all of that, and that does make these negotiations really difficult. I mean, the Driscoll trip to Ukraine was unannounced, and it was and the Witkoff negotiations were in secret. The administration did not want all of this to be aired out in the public just yet.
No, clearly, and you do just wonder how brought into it different. There's several key figures in the administration, quite a few actually, who are and should be involved in this. But certainly, Rubio's public pronouncement that We are and will continue to develop a list of potential ideas for ending this war based on input from both sides of this conflict. Well, that was not the message coming out of the White House last night.
Yeah, and I think there's some messaging cleanup as well, because this story did not roll out in a way that was controlled by this administration.
Absolutely. Those pesky journalists. Let's talk about a big event happening in DC today. Just before we go, there is a funeral happening today for the former Vice President, Dick Cheney, happening at Washington National Cathedral. We're going to see quite an array of characters turning up for this, as you would expect for a former vice president. George W. Bush is going to speak, Dasha. President Biden's going to be there, we are told, but President Trump did not get an invite. I don't know.
It is wild to me that Biden got invited and Trump didn't. I mean, that I think there was a time, before, I guess maybe more like 10 years ago, before the Trump Cheney spats, where that's crazy that like Biden is going enthusiastically.
Right. And the serving Republican president of the United States has not been invited and probably didn't want to go anyway. Like those two.
No love lost.
No love lost by the end, it's fair to see. But it's certainly going to be one of those big DC events when you see the great and the good are going there to pay their respects to someone who devoted a lot of his years of his life to public service in this country. And no doubt they will all want to remember that. That's all we've got time for. We're done. We're out.
That's
Dasha,
it.
Thank you for being here. Thank you all for listening. We have much more news and analysis, as always, in today's Playbook newsletter, which you can find at politico.com/playbook. And Adam Wren will be here with you tomorrow. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.